Hello, it's OT Khaled again, and I'm back with another video. This one is for two of my subscribers. One of them asked, how do I beat two Ligers? The other one asked, how do I beat Dark Ruler unevenly? So let's just get right to it. So in this scenario, this is two Ligers, one Baguska, and these two are not part of this combo, but the two bodies are, plus the combined that has imaginary names that I'm going to be using to shuffle back. Well, you get the gist. These can be any two bodies. These are just the first two I saw. Also, just a big reason as to why Memento is rather good into Lunalight is because when your opponent ends a double Liger, you often force your opponent to use one of the Ligers to prevent you from getting the advantage because they know about your floating capabilities. As in, like, you can just constantly use your bodies to float into others, and it prevents them from killing you when it comes back to their turn. So they'll use one Liger to remove your monsters the first time, and then hold the second one to make sure that you can't just reborn, combine, and kill their guys. So we can abuse that. So in this scenario, we've obviously dealt with the Baguska. It's a standard piece of their end board at this point. But they've also played around the Geonator transversal zones, which I don't believe is real, but I just wanted to cover it just to show you guys the application of what you can do. So just to show you, what you do is you put two monsters on the field, doesn't matter what they are, and then you summon Combined Creation. So now your opponent only has one Liger Dancer, which is this one, that is live now, which means that they would have to Liger Dancer you here, but if you rotate into this, they instantly lose the duel because you reborn it, balance all three, GG. But in the scenario where, let's say that they're going to hold it, so what you do is these two, make Geonator transversal, and then you go battle phase, and then attack into the one that hasn't used its effect, this one gets destroyed, and then you Geonator transversal, battle into the one that has used its effect, this card dies, and now you can, because it's the only monster on the field, combine, attacks into this one, and then you can beat into their last monster, whatever it may be, or if they don't have one, you pass. But the main merit is that you beat in double Liger, and that's all that matters. So we're going to be moving on to the second scenario. So let's say in this scenario, they're going to have the double Liger and the Baguska, but they've played into the Geonator transversal zone. So in this scenario, it doesn't really matter which monster plays into it. So all you have to do is just link these two bodies and just make Geo. Now the moment it points to it, it doesn't matter. They can't form the Virtuous pop their own card because Geonator Transversal protects their monster as well from being destroyed by their own card effects. They can't pop the Geonator, it doesn't matter. But the broken aspect of this is that you're able to just reborn combined to this zone, BP, battle them directly. They take 5k, pop, search for, let's just say Dark for that. And then you trigger field spell, target the combined, reborn Creation King, and then you battle directly. Just to let you know, a little tip, when you're going second against Lunalight and they've resolved their combo, when you use King, you never just put the King in the grave and then banish it. You do King, send another King, because you want to be able to have that summonable Creation King off the field spell, off the combined. There's lots of different merits to it. It's just specifically into Lunalight. Normally when you go second, to be fair, you quite often King send King, so that you can get an extra free starter. But yeah, and not just that, just to let you know, when you open Santa Claus as well, it makes your life a lot easier because you just Santa Claus it into the zone that, the Geonator zone. So that means you can always just beat the double Liger regardless. So yeah, plenty of cards to always facilitate it, especially in this list. Even though it's more focused towards other decks, it just unironically also hits Lunalight as well. So yeah, those are the two different ways that you can handle the situation, whether you're going to be able to OTK them. And always remember, even in a scenario where, let's say, they don't use any of the Liger Dancer effects, so that means you can't battle into both of them, because if you crash the Geonator, they just Liger Dancer pop the combined. If they only have one Liger Dancer on the field, it doesn't matter, because they have to battle into the Geonator to destroy it, which means that they've wasted one of the big attacks. Now they're going to go Liger Dancer, pop the combined, because they're not going to try battle into it, because it's just silly. But then that's just going to trigger Field Spell, that's going to trigger Akihiron. Now you're going to be able to just keep floating, and you're going to be, and because they only have one Liger, they have one battle left. Even if they had like a bunch of other monsters, they're never going to be able to kill you because the floating capability of this deck is too much. So that's like a big reason as to why like this deck does fairly well into Lunalight in my opinion, and those are the ways that you're able to beat them. So moving on to the next part of the video, this is how you beat Dark Ruler, and I'll go through evenly after. So with Dark Ruler, what happens is you take it. Dark Ruler will always resolve. There's nothing really you can do to stop that. But the whole point is that it only cuts off Gobonga and both your High Kings. That's it. So it removes 3 interruptions out of your 11 interruption board, so you go down to 8. So this is basically what you're going to do. You just play like normal. Let's say your opponent activates a card or effect, but let's say it's not necessarily like activating like a card to special. What you can do is activate Combine on Res. They're going to look at you, be like, it's negated, sure. And then you're going to go chain High King, and you can detach Gone Wild. And then Gone Wild triggers to attach their card. And obviously this doesn't get destroyed because this is negated, right? And then obviously whenever you wanted to, like in a scenario where they activated anything, you could just go High King, and now you also have the Berthamer. Your opponent commits, you've had 1 interruption, you've sucked it to the Gobonga, but now this is how you basically access all your momentum interrupts. You banish Bertho, you summon Creation King, and then you Creation King pop their cards, and then you trigger Field Spell, target Creation King, Reborn Trihorn, and now you can party pop Trihorn, summon Sleepy, destroy the Sleepy, send Gatic. I wouldn't recommend reborning Akihiro on here, and then Gatic effect. Gatic add back the Sleepy. You don't reborn Aki because you're clogging your zones at that point. But then here, as you can tell, like I still have Sleepy to make Twin Dragon to reborn Dark Blade to get an extra pop. I can reborn the Anguish for extra follow-up. I can Memento Fusion summon Dragus the Pelia. I have Mace in hand. Just to let you know, a really cool interaction that I do against quite a few people is in this game state when my zone is really clogged. I go Mace effect to Snatch Steal, and then I chain like Sleepy to summon. And then because of how game mechanic works, it sends it to grave. So Mace doesn't become a target Snatch Steal, it becomes a target send, which is really cool. And like you can abuse this type of stuff. Like for example, like they could even impulse the Sleepy, then you just go chain fusion, summon Drago, same thing. But like that's just like a really cool aspect as to how like you can abuse game mechanics with this deck. And then you will also obviously like have MST. But the point is, they only took away 3 interruptions from your board with Dark Ruler. So as you guys can tell, like it's not the highest impact card against Memento. But let's move on to evenly matched. So this card, obviously due to us not having a negate, is way worse in terms of like how much it does. But there's a huge difference though. Even though evenly says banish all my cards, we can mitigate the damage to like a very like high extent, and we're able to still have around 3 to 4 interrupts depending on the way that you do it. And yeah, and then as I always say, as long as you live, as long as it gets to your turn, if you could just interrupt your opponent just enough to keep them off stuff, then you're Gucci. So so this is how you beat evenly. So your opponent goes battle, they evenly. You're going to chain Bone Party. Or in a scenario where you also have SP, by the way, you SP target the Gobongan itself, then you chain Party, one or the other. And then you party pop, you're going to search Sleepy here. So now this decision, you also chain MST to pop the Memento Fusion, by the way. So in this decision, you either have to decide you're going to be banishing this. They've already gone through battle phase, so breakout is relevant as well, so it's not really needed anymore. And then it's basically between these 3. So in this scenario, when Berthamer goes to grave, you can banish Bertho, summon King pop their cards, plus still have Sleepy make twin pop search 2, blah. But then normally I don't really go for this one. But once again, like you're gonna MST pop this anyway, so you will have it in follow up for graveyard. So that's why like it's nicer just to leave it in the grave. But in the scenario where let's say we do MST pop it, so it goes grave now, the decisions between these two. So how you deduce it is, do I want more removal, like another form of removal, or do I want a double hiking negate? So you have to decide which one's more of a merit. I would say you have to decide based off the matchup. So if it's like Yummy, I would probably opt for the Trihorn because obviously Yummy can beat a hiking fairly easy. I believe it's just like normal summon Cupsy and like any name. So normal summon Cupsy does it. So I don't really see the point in leaving the hiking against them. But into other decks, obviously like Detail, I'm leaving the hiking, but they're not playing evenly, right? But anyway, so if you leave the hiking, obviously fairly simple. You hiking them both times. This card's banished. You Baphomet reborn the king, and then when you reborn like the Akihiron, for example, what you could do is summon Sleepy, make twin pop search to reborn Darkblade, reborn Aki. Darkblade pitch one of the cards that you search and pop one of their back row, and then you can banish Baphomet, summon King pop the Akihiro on the Darkblade, and add back a card while also retaining the king or popping 3, up to you. Plus you have the High King, so you actually do have a fair amount of interrupts there. Or what you could decide to do is banish this, and now you don't activate anything to play around the second evenly. Because if they evenly once, I have too much paranoia of someone like going second evenly. Like for example, if you triggered Field Spell, triggered Akihiro, reborn both now, and someone evenlies you again, what are you going to do? Nothing. But main phase 2. So you banish the Creation King, the Baphomet, and then you summon the Creation King. Now your opponent will commit a card. You Creation King pop it, then you trigger Field Spell and Akihiron. You reborn the Trihorn, reborn the Akihiron, and now you have several like forms of interruptions depending on what you're doing. Let's say your opponent's playing Detail. They've like set to back row. Like one of them, like they probably already used the Rahu. Now they're setting a Ketu because the card that's at 1 row, and then they have like 2 bodies on the field. Obviously, like you don't really want them to establish cards like Secretary and all that stuff. So an interesting thing that you could do here is summon Sleepy, but obviously you would have left High King. But into the correct deck, what you would do is Sleepy, make twin effect, pop search 2, and then you pop Trihorn. You search for 2 names. So for example here, it's realistically going to be Anguish and Zebra. So what you could do is go Trihorn, pop the Twin Dragon, pop both their cards, but then you could also Trihorn pop the Akihiron. So it's depending on what you're valuing more. In my opinion, because Battle Phase is gone, it's better to leave the Akihiron, because having him first action and being able to go Banish Fusion, pop Aki, search party, trigger Akihiron, add back Fusion, is an insane play. But when your opponent hasn't gone through Battle Phase, that's when you would Trihorn pop the Akihiron here, because the Twin Dragon floats twice. Because you Twin Dragon reborn Sleepy, they battle into Sleepy, Sleepy dumps Gatic, Gatic reborns, adds back another card, so you basically have 3 bodies to deal with. But in this scenario, the opponent's gone past the Battle Phase already, so you just pop the Twin Dragon. And then in this scenario, if you want the extra interruption, you can go for the Darkblade, pitch 1, pitch the Zebra, pop their back row, or you reborn Anguish and you get more follow-up. So it's completely based off like how you want to like interpret it and how you guys want to play it. It's just completely based off matchups. But as you can see in Memento, as long as you just resolve your interrupts and you resolve your combo, it basically just means that you're going to be searching follow-up for the previous turn. Because in my opinion, being able to have Memento Fusion combined, Anguish, Zebra, as follow-up through evenly in a deck that plays no Omni, and still being able to access 4 interrupts is so stupid. This is a 1-card combo. Like, you still have 4 other cards. Always remember that. There's games where I open like triple Board Breaker, Starter Extender, my opponent doesn't have hand chance, he plays Board Breakers or something, and then I don't even set my Board Breakers. Maybe I would set Crown, maybe I'll set Fallen the Virtuous because I can FNV pop my Field Spell as well, which means I don't have to lose my Field Spell, and I can comfortably leave my High King, so that's another merit. Like, I would only realistically set Crown and FNV, and MST. I wouldn't really set Droplet, I would leave that for follow-up, because like, I mean, the Memento interrupts is already like an 11 interrupt board. Like, I don't ever really think to myself that like, oh, like this one extra card is really gonna save it. No, the board is good enough at that point. And then you being able to retain it for follow up and being able to beat them on a turn 3. But realistically, like once you've made your board, like people normally just scoop or attempt to try break it. They start realizing how much work Gone Wild and Gobonga are doing. But you guys get the point. As long as you live, that's pretty much all that matters. I just wanted to show you guys how to maximize your amount of interrupts, even in those like grim game states. And then Lightning Storm and Harpies, like remember, like you can just go Chain Fusion, Chain Party. And then even in the scenario where they like they would pop MST and stuff, but you still have High King, Gobongo, and all these other cards, and you still have all your interrupts. Remember, because I think I've shown it in previous videos, where someone Lightning Storms you. Like, when you just Chain Fusion, Chain Party, like you literally accessed every Memento interrupt. Hell, I don't even believe you even have to use Fusion. Yeah, I think only Bone Party is necessary. But yeah, if you guys want to see that, let me know, I guess. But yeah, if any of you want to see anything else, any other content, questions that you may have, lines that you want to see, just always feel free to let me know, and I'll try and make it happen. But yeah, thank you very much. Hope you guys have a nice day. Bye bye.